Long ago, in a quiet African village where the sun touched the earth with gold, and the mornings were filled with gentle mist, there lived a young man named Kofi. The village was peaceful, surrounded by endless fields and ancient trees, and the people were content with the life they knew. But Kofi was different. While others found comfort in the familiar, his heart carried a question he could not silence. He would often stand at the edge of the village, staring into the distance, watching the horizon as if it was calling him. Deep within him, a voice whispered, "Is there more beyond what we see?" The elders of the village would gather at night around the fire, telling stories of distant lands filled with mystery, danger, and wonder. They warned of the unknown, urging the young ones to stay where they were safe. "Everything you need is here," they would say. But their words did not quiet Kofi's restless heart. Instead, they made his curiosity grow even stronger. He began to feel that his life, though peaceful, was incomplete. Like something important was missing. Something he had not yet found. One morning, before the sun had fully risen and while the village still slept, Kofi made a decision that would change his life forever. Without making a sound, he gathered what little he had and stepped onto the narrow path that led away from his home. He did not look back. Not because he did not love his village, but because something greater was pulling him forward. He did not know where the journey would lead, but he knew he had to follow it. Kofi walked across vast open plains where the sun burned brightly above him and the wind whispered through the tall grass. He journeyed through dense forests where the trees were so thick that even sunlight struggled to reach the ground. He crossed rivers that pushed against him with great force, testing his strength and determination. There were days when the journey felt endless, and nights when the silence around him was so deep it felt like the world had forgotten him. As time passed, days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Kofi encountered new lands and different people. He listened to many voices, heard many beliefs, and saw many ways of life. Some spoke of power, others of wisdom, and some of hidden truths. But no matter how far he traveled or how much he discovered, something inside him remained empty. The excitement of new places began to fade, replaced by a quiet ache in his heart. He began to question himself. What am I truly searching for? He wondered. The further he went, the more lost he felt. It was as if the answer he sought was always just beyond his reach. No matter how far he walked, the journey that once filled him with hope now filled him with uncertainty. Then one night, after a long and exhausting journey, Kofi found himself alone in a vast desert. The land stretched endlessly in every direction, and the silence was unlike anything he had ever known. There were no voices, no movement, no distractions, only him and the stillness of the night sky above. For the first time, Kofi stopped running. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed by everything he had been carrying inside. This was not a moment of tradition or routine. It was something deeper, something real. From the very depth of his soul, he whispered into the silence, "If there is truth, if there is a God who sees me, show me." The air around him became still. The wind that once moved across the desert suddenly quieted. Time itself seemed to pause. And then, in the distance, something began to change. A soft light appeared. It was not harsh or blinding, but gentle and warm, like a presence filled with peace. The light slowly grew brighter, moving closer until it surrounded him. Kofi lifted his head, his heart pounding not with fear, but with something he could not explain. And from within that light, a man appeared, calm, full of peace, and unlike anyone Kofi had ever seen. It was Jesus Christ. Kofi could not speak. Yet in that moment he understood more than words could ever express. "You have searched far," the man said gently, his voice filled with compassion. "But what you seek has always been near." Tears filled Kofi's eyes as the truth settled into his heart. All this time he had been searching for a place, a destination, something outside himself. But what he truly needed was not a place, it was this moment. This truth, this presence. "I was searching for a new world," Kofi said softly, his voice trembling. "But now I see. I was searching for you." The light did not just shine around him, it filled him. The emptiness that had followed him for so long disappeared, replaced by a peace he had never known. The confusion, the doubt, the endless searching, all of it faded away. For the first time in his life, Kofi felt complete. When the light slowly faded, Kofi remained there, no longer lost, no longer searching. He had found what he had been looking for all along. With a renewed heart, Kofi began his journey back home. When he finally returned to his village, the people gathered around him, amazed to see him again. They expected stories of distant lands, dangerous journeys, and strange discoveries. They wanted to hear about the world beyond the horizon, but Kofi spoke of something greater. "I went searching for a new world," he said, his voice calm but full of meaning. "And I found a new life." The villagers listened closely as he shared what he had experienced. Not just the journey across the land, but the journey within his heart. His words carried a peace that could not be ignored. Later, as the sun began to set, Kofi stood once again at the edge of the village, looking toward the same horizon he had once longed to cross. But this time, everything was different. He was no longer searching. He smiled because he finally understood. The greatest journey is not across the earth, but toward the truth, and that truth had found him.